a man who scooped up the Mandarin Oriental at Columbus Circle for a discounted $98 million. A couple who turned $2,000 in a small apartment into a $3.4 billion fortune. And at number 1, the richest Indian family in New York, one guy Warren Buffett literally said he'd save before himself in a sinking boat. Yeah, these are the 12 richest Indian empires in New York. And I had to dig through the glass facades of Manhattan and the guarded estates of the Hamptons to find them. From Wall Street apex predators to global conglomerates owning Columbus Circle, these dynasties are silently buying up the bedrock of the United States. But before we crown number 1, we've got 11 more empires to count down. Starting with a hospitality king who just flipped his operational arm to Hyatt for a reported $300 million. Number 12. The Chatwal Hospitality Strategy. The Times Square Landlord. To comprehend the modernization of global wealth, you must examine how cultural exports are financially weaponized in the heart of Manhattan. Sant Singh Chatwal did not inherit a sprawling real estate portfolio. He built a highly liquid empire by exploiting a massive geographical arbitrage opportunity. Arriving in New York after building a successful restaurant business abroad, he recognized that the true power in American hospitality was not in selling food, but in holding the physical dirt underneath the dining room. The capital was generated by founding Hampshire Hotels and Resorts and the Dream Hotel Group. Chatwal aggressively expanded his footprint across Midtown Manhattan, opening luxury lifestyle hotels that catered to the ultra-wealthy elite. He bypassed traditional, sluggish corporate hospitality chains by directly importing high-end nightlife and merging it with boutique hotel accommodations. This allowed his properties to command exorbitant nightly rates while maintaining extreme supply chain efficiency across his food and beverage divisions. To completely insulate this revenue stream, the Chatwal dynasty executed a flawless corporate restructuring strategy. During economic downturns and the catastrophic volatility of the pandemic, they rejected the legacy model of carrying massive operational debt. Instead, they optimized their capital stack, ensuring their core assets, the physical real estate in Times Square and beyond, remained perfectly insulated from the daily fluctuations of hotel occupancy rates. Their absolute power move was the recent strategic liquidation of their operational arm. The family orchestrated a high-stakes transaction to sell the Dream Hotel Group brand and management platform to Hyatt for a reported base price of up to $300 million, contingent on future developments. What traditional real estate developers fundamentally misunderstand about the Chatwal empire is the profit architecture. They assume the family was simply in the business of booking hotel rooms. In reality, they operated an elite real estate holding company. They built a glamorous brand, sold the operational headaches to a massive conglomerate for pure cash, and maintained their sovereign grip on the underlying commercial geography of New York City. Number 11. The Jain Loyalty Arbitrage. The monetization of shelter. While traditional real estate billionaires bleed their capital dry fighting over microscopic, hyper-expensive plots of land in Tribeca, Ankur Jain executed a completely different, infinitely more scalable strategy. Through his venture Bilt Rewards, he amassed a staggering paper fortune by recognizing that the future of wealth lay not in pouring concrete, but in monopolizing the largest single expense of the American consumer. The money was forged through the aggressive monetization of residential rent. For decades, the American rental market was a financial black hole. Tenants paid thousands of dollars a month and received absolutely zero equity or credit in return. Jain recognized this massive structural inefficiency. He built a digital loyalty program and a co-branded credit card that finally allowed renters to earn points on their monthly housing payments. He essentially stepped into the middle of a trillion-dollar transaction flow without ever owning a single apartment building. He protects this empire through absolute institutional alignment. The fatal flaw of most technology startups is attempting to disrupt massive legacy industries, thereby triggering defensive warfare from established monopolies. Jain did the exact opposite. He formed strategic alliances with the largest real estate landlords in the United States, including Blackstone and related companies, integrating them directly into the Bilt ecosystem. By aligning his financial interests with the apex predators of New York real estate, He ensured that his platform was completely untouchable by local government regulators or rival startups. His absolute power move was the capitalization of this network. Bilt Rewards rapidly achieved a reported valuation of $3.1 billion. What the general public completely misinterprets about Ankur Jain is the illusion of the credit card. People believe he is operating a standard consumer finance company. The reality is that he engineered a behavioral data and liquidity engine. He captured the monthly transaction data of the entire renting class, turning the unavoidable cost of human shelter into a proprietary multi-billion-dollar digital asset. Number 10. The Mathrani commercial monolith, the corporate surgeon. When massive wealth seeks permanent generational stability, it does not rely on flashy software. It relies on the ruthless optimization of distressed concrete. Sandeep Mathrani completely redefined the architectural and economic reality of commercial real estate by positioning himself as the ultimate corporate fixer. The foundation of his immense professional standing was built during his tenure as the Chief Executive Officer of General Growth Properties, GGP. Following the 2008 financial crisis, GGP was suffocating under the weight of one of the most catastrophic bankruptcies in American real estate history. Mathrani stepped into the executive suite and executed a brutal, highly calculated wave of corporate restructuring. He fired underperforming executives, slashed bloated corporate expenses, and recapitalized the toxic debt load. He took a bankrupt mall operator and resurrected it, ultimately selling the empire to Brookfield Property Partners for roughly $15 billion. He insulates his professional equity through the concept of operational indispensability. In 2020, when the co-working giant WeWork suffered a spectacular, highly public financial collapse under its original founder, Wall Street panicked. SoftBank, the primary financial backer, did not hire a visionary software engineer to fix the company. They hired Mathrani. He stepped into the New York headquarters and violently compressed the bleeding, shedding unprofitable leases and stabilizing the corporate structure before eventually exiting to join the elite private equity firm, Sycamore Partners. The ultimate power move of his career is his total immunity to market euphoria. While other CEOs desperately chase magazine covers and inflated valuations, Mathrani deals exclusively in the cold, hard mathematics of distressed debt. What modern tech investors completely misinterpret about his trajectory is the narrative of his leadership. He is not a standard landlord or a charismatic tech founder. He is an apex corporate surgeon. Wall Street banks deploy him into the most terrifying, multi-billion-dollar hemorrhages in the global real estate sector because he possesses the ruthless capacity to amputate the toxic assets and save the host. Number 9. The Desai labor matrix, the arbitrage of intelligence. In the hierarchy of wealth creation, the most untouchable fortunes are derived from exploiting macroeconomic differentials. Bharat Desai and Neerja Sethi synthesized a massive multi-billion-dollar fortune not by speculating on Manhattan real estate, but by systematically conquering the back-end digital infrastructure of Wall Street itself. The capital was generated through the creation of Syntel, an information technology and outsourcing leviathan. Starting in 1980, with an estimated $2,000 in a small apartment, they recognized a massive, unexploited gap in the American corporate sector. Massive financial institutions, banks, and healthcare conglomerates in New York were spending exorbitant amounts of capital on local software development. Desai and Sethi built an elite pipeline that connected these massive corporate budgets directly to hyper-efficient, highly educated engineering talent in India. To protect this immense, sudden influx of cash, they executed a quiet but brilliant growth strategy. Syntel scaled aggressively without taking on toxic levels of debt or sacrificing massive equity percentages to venture capital firms. They embedded their software engineers so deeply into the daily operational frameworks of their American corporate clients that removing Syntel would essentially paralyze the client's internal networks. This created an inescapable, highly sticky recurring revenue stream. Their ultimate power move was the flawless execution of their exit. In 2018, they completely liquidated their operational exposure, selling Syntel to the French IT conglomerate Atos for an estimated $3.4 billion in pure cash. What ordinary taxpayers completely fail to grasp about the Syntel empire is the magnitude of its institutional power. The public assumes they were simply a software coding firm. Financial analysts recognize them as a global labor arbitrage engine. They successfully bridge the geographic gap between Wall Street's infinite budgets and Asia's engineering workforce, extracting a $3 billion toll fee in the process. Number 8. The Ramaswamy Biopharma Citadel, the FDA patent scavenger. Moving from the digital networks of IT to the heavily regulated, hyper-lucrative laboratories of biotechnology, we encounter a sector of wealth built entirely on intellectual property. Vivek Ramaswamy did not spend decades in a laboratory inventing new molecules. Operating from his corporate headquarters in New York, he built Roivant Sciences by deploying the ruthless, mathematical logic of a hedge fund manager into the pharmaceutical sector. The money was originally made through a masterclass in asset reclamation. Pharmaceutical behemoths routinely abandon promising drug candidates during clinical trials simply because the drug does not fit their specific corporate strategy or target revenue thresholds. Ramaswamy built an empire by acquiring these discarded, overlooked patents for pennies on the dollar. He would then spin these individual drugs out into separate, highly specialized subsidiary companies, dubbed Vants, and aggressively fund their completion through the FDA trial process. He protects his capital through aggressive corporate compartmentalization. The biotech industry is a graveyard of bankrupt companies that failed a single Phase 3 trial. By legally structuring Roivant as a parent holding company with completely separate, isolated subsidiaries, Ramaswamy ensured that if one drug failed catastrophically, the bankruptcy was contained entirely to that specific Vant. The parent company, and his personal equity, remained perfectly insulated. His absolute power move was the monetization of this unique pipeline. In 2019, he orchestrated a legendary transaction, selling stakes in 5 of his subsidiaries to the Japanese conglomerate Sumitomo Dainippon Pharma for a staggering $3 billion upfront. What traditional medical researchers completely misunderstand about Roivant is the corporate classification. Ramaswamy is not operating a standard medical charity. He engineered a highly optimized financial mechanism that treats FDA regulatory approvals exactly like distressed debt, transforming abandoned scientific research into an untouchable, liquid fortune. Number 7. The Nooyi corporate hegemony, the supply chain sovereign. To comprehend the nature of our next profile, we must step outside the realm of founders and venture capitalists and enter the highly militarized, hyper-exclusive epicenter of global corporate governance. Indra Nooyi did not found PepsiCo, but during her legendary 12-year tenure as chief executive officer, she commanded an empire that dictated the agricultural and consumer heartbeat of the entire planet from her corporate fortress in Purchase, New York. The wealth and unassailable power were accumulated through decades of steering one of America's most trusted corporate behemoths. Nooyi governed a conglomerate with a market capitalization that routinely hovered well over $160 billion. She was directly responsible for a global supply chain encompassing everything from Gatorade and Tropicana to Frito-Lay and Quaker Oats. She protected this staggering corporate legacy by orchestrating a massive, deeply controversial strategic pivot. While activist investors aggressively demanded short-term profit spikes and the immediate breakup of the company, Nooyi resisted. She recognized that consumer psychology was permanently shifting away from high-sugar sodas toward healthier alternatives. She directed billions of dollars into research and development, acquiring healthier brands and reformulating classic products to ensure PepsiCo remained relevant for the next 50 years. She successfully insulated the company against the inevitable regulatory backlash surrounding global obesity. The ultimate power move of her career is her post-executive transition. Upon stepping down from PepsiCo, she did not retire to a golf course. She transitioned immediately into the most elite boardrooms on Earth, securing a seat on the board of directors for Amazon and the International Cricket Council. What contemporary entrepreneurs profoundly misunderstand about elite corporate CEOs is the deployment of influence. The modern startup founder believes they hold power because they own equity in an app. Nooyi operated at a level where her daily decisions physically altered the agricultural supply chains of entire continents and dictated the caloric consumption of billions of human beings. Number 6. The Bhargava synthetic liquidity. The private cash printer. In the ruthless theater of consumer packaged goods, the most lethal operators do not seek public validation. They seek total, unlisted ownership. Manoj Bhargava amassed his staggering multi-billion-dollar fortune by creating a product so ubiquitous and perfectly scaled that it fundamentally altered the retail layout of every single gas station and convenience store in the United States. He is the architect of 5-hour energy. The capital was generated through extreme, undeniable spatial efficiency. Bhargava recognized that traditional energy drinks required massive aluminum cans, enormous refrigerated distribution trucks, and significant shelf space. He bypassed this entire logistical nightmare by compressing the active ingredients into a tiny 2-ounce shot. By positioning this product directly on the checkout counter, the most prime, heavily contested real estate in the entire retail sector, he captured the impulse buy market with absolute devastation. He protects his fortune by violently rejecting the Silicon Valley capitalization model. Bhargava completely refused to take the company public or accept venture capital funding. Innovation Ventures, the parent company, remains privately held. By keeping the corporate structure completely dark, he never has to reveal his profit margins, disclose his strategic maneuvers, or answer to aggressive Wall Street analysts. The company operates as a completely sovereign, unregulated cash printer. His absolute power move is how he deploys this oceanic reserve of liquid capital. Operating primarily out of the Midwest but maintaining massive strategic interests in New York, Bhargava recently attempted a highly publicized, aggressive takeover of the Arena Group, the publisher of Sports Illustrated. What ordinary consumers fundamentally misunderstand about 5-hour energy is the end goal. Bhargava is not in the beverage business. He sells synthetic time. He extracts microscopic, highly repetitive toll fees from exhausted American workers and uses that infinite cash flow to purchase distressed cultural monuments and fund massive, global philanthropic infrastructure projects without ever having to ask a bank for a loan. Number 5. The Pandit Private Equity Funnel. The Shadow Central Banker. When dealing with supreme financial influence, resilience in the face of macroeconomic trauma is the ultimate separator. Vikram Pandit commanded the highest echelons of the global economy as the chief executive officer of Citigroup during the most terrifying financial collapse in modern history. His initial fortune and executive standing were forged in the brutal, hyper-competitive arenas of Morgan Stanley and institutional investment structuring. However, his tenure at Citigroup required navigating an apocalyptic landscape of toxic subprime mortgages and massive federal bailouts. He effectively stabilized a multi-trillion-dollar balance sheet that was bleeding out on the operating table. But true dynastic wealth is not made by remaining an employee of a heavily regulated bank. It is made by owning the architecture that the banks rely upon. Following his exit from Citigroup, Pandit executed a flawless pivot. He founded the Origin Group, an elite private equity firm specifically designed to aggressively acquire and scale financial technology and infrastructure companies. The power move of this strategy is the weaponization of insider knowledge. Because Pandit spent years sitting at the absolute apex of global banking, he perfectly understands the massive software, compliance, and technological inefficiencies that plague legacy financial institutions. Origin Group deploys its massive capital reserves to buy the specific fintech startups that solve these exact problems. He then utilizes his pristine, undeniable Wall Street network to sell those services directly back to the megabanks. What the general public completely fails to grasp about Vikram Pandit is his evolution. They view him as a former corporate executive. In reality, he operates as a shadow central banker. He extracted himself from the heavily audited, heavily regulated public banking sector and now quietly controls the back-end digital plumbing that powers the financial markets from his unlisted private equity fortress in New York. Number 4. The Jain Debt Architecture. The Global Macro Titan. To comprehend the sheer scale of the bond market, one must trace the flow of sovereign debt back to the executives who orchestrated. The late Ankur Jain was a legendary figure whose influence physically reshaped the operations of Wall Street and the City of London. He did not build consumer technology. He built the institutional architecture for global fixed-income trading. The staggering wealth and influence were synthesized during his two-decade rise to become the co-chief executive officer of Deutsche Bank. Under his aggressive, highly calculated leadership, Deutsche Bank transformed from a conservative German lender into an absolute, terrifyingly dominant global investment banking powerhouse. Jain mastered the highly complex, mathematically brutal world of derivatives and fixed-income securities, generating billions of dollars in profit for the institution and establishing an unparalleled network of international finance ministers and corporate titans. He insulated his professional legacy through extreme operational dominance. Following his departure from Deutsche Bank, he relocated to New York to serve as the president of Cantor Fitzgerald. This was not a quiet retirement. It was an aggressive revitalization of a legendary Wall Street firm. He was tasked with expanding Cantor's footprint into massive, high-yield global macro trading, leveraging his immense Rolodex to open doors that were securely bolted shut to rival executives. His ultimate power move was his ability to navigate the most complex regulatory and political environments on Earth. While standard traders panic over slight fluctuations in the stock market, Jain operated on a geopolitical scale, dealing directly with the sovereign debt of entire nations. What retail investors completely misinterpret about global banking is the level of strategy involved. They view banking as simple loans and deposits. Ankur Jain operated in a financial realm so complex and highly capitalized that traditional economic downturns did not threaten him. They simply created massive volatility, which he and his syndicates expertly monetized. His legacy remains permanently embedded in the concrete of New York's financial district. Number 3. The Tata Diplomatic Beachhead. The Sovereign Embassy. As we breach the top 3, we move beyond simple corporate compensation and enter the realm of sovereign-level international diplomacy. The Tata Group is a legendary, multi-hundred-billion-dollar global conglomerate that effectively functions as the industrial and commercial spine of the Indian subcontinent. To anchor a dynasty of this magnitude within the United States, standard commercial real estate was discarded. The Tata Group required a structure with historical weight and absolute, undeniable prestige. Through their hospitality subsidiary, Taj Hotels, they assumed the operational management and heavily invested in the iconic Pierre Hotel in New York City. This was no ordinary property management deal. Located at the exact intersection of Fifth Avenue and Central Park, the Pierre is a monument to old-world European and American wealth. The Tata Group protected their capital by initiating massive, multi-million-dollar renovation protocols, ensuring the property met the exacting standards of global royalty and foreign diplomats. By holding the keys to this specific building, they established a heavily fortified, ultra-luxurious beachhead in the capital of global finance. Their absolute power move is the geographic and psychological positioning of the asset. The Pierre features grand ballrooms, elite security infrastructure, and penthouse suites that overlook the entire expanse of Central Park. What amateur property speculators completely misunderstand about this acquisition is the underlying motivation. The Tata Group is not attempting to aggressively compete with localized boutique hotels for nightly room rates. The Pierre serves as a physical diplomatic embassy. It is a highly controlled 50-star diplomatic zone designed specifically to host the most sensitive, high-leverage conversations shaping the future of global trade. When the leaders of the Tata Group arrive in New York to negotiate multi-billion-dollar acquisitions, they do not rent a boardroom. They simply take the elevator down to their own private fortress. Number 2. The Ambani Strategic Acquisition. The Manhattan Crown Jewel. In the ruthless theater of international real estate, the most lethal operators do not pay retail prices for prestige. Mukesh Ambani, the chairman of Reliance Industries, commands an empire that dictates the telecommunications, retail, and energy sectors of over 1 billion people. When a man controls the physical and digital trade routes of a nation, his international acquisitions follow an aggressively strategic logic. Ambani required an elite base of operations in New York to facilitate his sprawling corporate expansion and cement his family's status among the Western elite. However, instead of engaging in a blind bidding war for a generic glass penthouse, Ambani utilized elite corporate timing to secure an unparalleled discount. He targeted the legendary Mandarin Oriental Hotel, a sprawling, ultra-luxury property occupying the highest floors of the Deutsche Bank Center at Columbus Circle. During a period of intense global economic distress, the holding company managing the asset faced severe liquidity issues. Original estimates placed the true historical market value of the estate significantly higher. Ambani's investment vehicles descended upon the proceedings and executed a flawless corporate strike, acquiring the controlling stake for a reported, deeply discounted price of roughly $98 million. His absolute power move was the specific location of the asset. The Mandarin Oriental does not just sit in Manhattan, it looms directly over Central Park and the entire corporate skyline. What the financial press consistently misinterprets about Mukesh Ambani's residential and commercial strategy is the concept of distressed leverage. The media views luxury hotels as emotional purchases. Ambani views them as highly strategic, mispriced geopolitical assets. By deploying his immense liquid capital during a complex market contraction, he essentially acquired a multi-million-dollar observation deck over Wall Street. He proved that true wealth is not about how much you can afford to spend, but how ruthlessly you can capture the absolute premier landmarks of the Western world. Number 1. The Ajit Jain Macro Vault. The ultimate safety net. We finally arrive at the absolute zenith of global financial influence. To achieve the number 1 position on this list, an operator cannot merely own a hotel, a software company, or a private equity firm. They must hold the very mathematical algorithms that prevent global civilization from collapsing. Ajit Jain, operating predominantly out of the Stamford and New York metropolitan ecosystem, is the vice chairman of insurance operations for Berkshire Hathaway. The staggering, untouchable power he wields is not derived from a consumer product. Jain built his legacy by mastering the most terrifying, mathematically brutal industry on the planet: catastrophic reinsurance. When massive, multinational corporations or primary insurance companies face the threat of unprecedented natural disasters, terrorist attacks, or planetary-scale catastrophes, they do not possess the liquidity to survive the payout. They must buy insurance for their insurance. They go to Ajit Jain. He protects Berkshire Hathaway's multi-hundred-billion-dollar balance sheet through extreme, unparalleled mathematical discipline. Jain possesses the unique cognitive ability to calculate the exact probability of unquantifiable disasters and price the premium accordingly. He hoards the massive upfront cash premiums, known as the float, and allows Warren Buffett to invest those billions into the stock market. His ultimate power move is absolute, irreplaceable indispensability. Warren Buffett, historically recognized as the greatest investor of all time, famously stated to Berkshire shareholders that if he, Charlie Munger, and Ajit Jain were ever in a sinking boat and only one could be saved, they should swim to Ajit. What the global public completely fails to grasp about the insurance industry is the sheer magnitude of its territorial capture. Ajit Jain does not seek fame or public validation. He operates in absolute silence, armed only with a telephone and a proprietary understanding of global risk. He holds the policies that dictate whether major cities are rebuilt after a hurricane. He is the undisputed, invisible sovereign of extreme macro finance, proving that true, absolute power requires only the capital and the intellect to underwrite the end of the world. From the glass spires of Columbus Circle to the heavily guarded reinsurance vaults managing planetary risk, these dynasties prove a chilling reality. The true architects of the New York economy do not chase headlines. They command the infrastructure of survival. They bypass traditional gatekeepers, leveraging massive corporate restructuring, high-speed labor arbitrage, and elite regulatory capture to build fortresses completely immune to public scrutiny. Which of these untouchable financial syndicates surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. To uncover the invisible capital shaping our world, like and subscribe to Global Status.